It's starting the live on YouTube in a few seconds.
Is this being recorded?
Yes, sir. We have
Always.
we have that option.
Always.
All righty. Let me confirm that we're live on the air. Yep, we are live on the air, gentlemen and ladies. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon one more time. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is 3rd of October. My name is Kingsley, representing Omega Studio for the conversation we're going to have this afternoon about bridging the gap. We thank God, everyone, all the panel is available. We're going to have a moment to have the panelists greet our audience. As the time is right now, we're about 1:18 p.m. Eastern. Viewers are jumping in right now. We have 3. Now the number is going to increase. So I think it will be okay to just give them a moment. Let's see if we can hit like 10. At least they can see us. Because if we start now, it's not a lot of people. You know, we lost 15 minutes, about or 20 minutes, you know. So let's relax for a minute, just have a conversation or joke while we wait for viewers to at least, so we can get a good number. Then we can start an actual conversation. So, Kayode.
Yes, sir.
Is the lunch, when are we going to have lunch after this discussion?
We can definitely have a virtual lunch. That is possible. I know, you know, do our work sometimes. So yeah.
Oh, well, Madam President should actually be the one that will attend to that question. Madam President.
I agree.
Madam President, bring it up.
After the meeting, we're gonna be going to Nation Cafe.
Oh, are they open?
Yeah, I mean,
they will open because of us.
Yeah, they were open before.
Okay.
I don't think they were closed.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's actually
unless
interesting.
the honorable judge wants to take over.
We have to have something special for the officers.
I don't want to put my honorable on the spot now.
How are you, Mr. Tony?
Fine. Good to see your face after all these years, man.
Good to see you too.
Corona has locked us, every one of us, down.
Yes, so, but we are still here.
Yep. So it's amazing because technology.
Thank you.
Since we are recording this, and anybody that missed the beginning can go and play it back like they did with the consulate issue.
Okay. All right. Let me just take this call so we don't lose the person. This case, your Omega Studio, can I help you? Hello.
Okay, the person
no problem. Yeah. All right. Hello, this case, your Omega Studio, can I help you? All right, we'll get through it. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, like Tony suggested, I hope everyone has taken a glass of water. If you don't, feel free, grab something to drink. We'll be going for probably an hour, conversation. So, oh yeah, Honorable, I see you there.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna just take it. All right, we have about 7 people now watching live, which is good. I'm gonna take it. Just let's give honor to whom honor is due. The conversation we're gonna have this afternoon is about our safety. Once again, just to create a disclaimer, for whatever discussion, whatever conversation, whatever idea that we'll share this afternoon is not actually written on any paper, or what I say, knock on the wood. It's just kind of like opinion of an individual like we are all individuals, affected by the situation of, I will not even say police brutality. I would just say the unseen incident of what has happened in our community. So we are here having a conversation to know how best we can approach it. So we're going to be receiving questions from our viewers. And at the same time, if a panelist have any question, why not? We will also attend to it. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give honor to whom honor is due to take the first role. Our president, ANOG President Alice Osunde, please, your opening speech. Greet our audience.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for calling in. First and foremost, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our men and women in uniform that are present here, and even with those that are not even here. On behalf of the Nigerian community, I just want to say thank you to all of you for all that you do, all your sacrifices every day. And we pray that God, in His mercy, every day that you leave your house, you'll come back safely and meet your family. The good Lord will continue to protect you. Also, I would like to thank our honorable. Thank you so much for taking time to be here. We truly, truly appreciate you a lot in the community. You've always been there. Thank you so much. And I would like to thank the members of the community that are online now. Thank you for taking your time to come in, but I would like to say something a little bit about ANOG. ANOG is Alliance Nigerians organization based here in Georgia. And the reason of ANOG, the purpose of ANOG is just for one or two things that I'm going to mention: to promote and unite Nigerians here in Georgia and elsewhere that they find themselves, to advocate, protect, and advance Nigerian culture. Very, very important. To promote an advancement of Nigerians' welfare. Very important too. To promote and cultivate political awareness and civic responsibility among Nigerians, especially now that we have this election coming up. It's very, very important to go out there and vote. That is, if you can vote. If you cannot, don't try it. To promote harmony and peaceful coexistence within ethnic groups. We know where we come from is very important too. And then to also conduct other activities, not contravention of the Georgia non-profit organization necessary to, to carry out the foregoing purpose. Very important. And I want you guys to know that you can only join a group to be a member of ANOG. That means wherever you come from, you have to join the local community group to become a member of ANOG. Thank you so very much. And also we have some of the ANOG members here in case I miss anything during their opening remarks, they might mention it. Thank you so much and God bless you.
Thank you, Madam President. Let's reach to our PRO, Kayode Adenkunle. Please greet our audience.
Thank you, Moderator Kingsley. Again, the President already, thanked all the panelists. I want to obviously follow up. We thank our law enforcement officers that are present today. Their job is not easy. I know, we can sit on our couch and we think, what we're seeing in the news sometimes, can be taken for granted. They have a tough job to do. So we appreciate all they do to try to keep us safe always. This is an important discussion that we're having today. We want to make sure that at the end of the day, both sides can come away with what we need to know to stay safe among each other, from the police perspective and from the community side, of the house. That both sides will walk away at the end of this session saying, something, I've learned something that if I get involved with law enforcement, I know how to act accordingly. That way I don't become a statistics. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. And next on our roll will be the immediate past president, the man that handed over to Alice, in the person of Tony Ndubeze Alaka. Please greet our audience.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. As always, you always come through with a community service. And I thank all members of my president, Alice and Kayode. And I thank all members of the panelists, the judge and the police officers who have taken their time to be here. And just like Kayode said, we cannot thank you enough for what you do. We can sit back and criticize for one reason or the other, but sometimes I ask myself, if I'm in your shoe, what will I do on certain circumstances, considering the type of environment we all live in today? I think Starting on what other speakers have said, I will say thank you and hope we have a wonderful deliberation today.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tony. And we'll be moving on to Lieutenant Copeland with Fulton County. Please greet our audience.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Lieutenant Copeland. I've been with the Sheriff's Office, Fulton County Sheriff's Office, for 10 years, in which I hold the rank of a lieutenant. And currently I'm with the jail division, and I've had the experience with jail division along with admin and working in the different annexes.
Wow, 10 years of service. Awesome. Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent. Now we'll be moving to Sergeant Diokpara. Please greet our audience.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sergeant Diokpara with the Fulton County Sheriff's Office. I look forward to this because this is a very important topic for us to kind of tackle and try to marry both community together. But I look forward to sharing a lot of conversation and getting a lot of feedback from the audience.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. Moving up on the row, let's reach out to our judge, Tunde Akinyele. Please, Honorable Tunde Akinyele, greet our audience.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tunde Akinyele. I am the current Chief Judge in Lithonia Municipal Court. I also sit in DeKalb County Traffic Court, State Court, and Juvenile Court. Prior to that, I was a prosecutor for 13 years in the DA's office. I have handled every type of criminal case possible, or well, I guess the majority of them. And interestingly enough, because I've also been a defense lawyer, I've had the opportunity to defend folks charged with crimes. I've also actually had the opportunity to not only prosecute police officers, but also defend police officers. So I have a unique perspective in this area within the best that I can share with you. I look forward to the conversation today. And if you have specific questions about certain cases, I'll be glad to share my opinions with you within reason, I guess is what it is. We have limits on what we can get out in the community. But again, I'm in traffic court mostly, so I have no problem sharing some of my thoughts about what needs to what's going on and what needs to change.
Excellent. Excellent. We cannot just be more grateful than having you here as well, because sounds like you have the best of both worlds. All right, moving on. Let's move on to Sergeant Nobles. Please greet our audience.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sergeant Nobles. I'm with the Clayton County Sheriff's Office. I've been employed there for about 20 years now. In law enforcement for about 23 years. I've worked in all facets of the Sheriff's Office, from civil to court services to school resource, but the most important one that I think that I enjoy working with is community relations. Our community relations is a unit that's developed to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the public, and this is what I enjoy doing the most because it does give me a good positive relationship with the community.
Excellent, excellent. Now, we just done the introduction. Viewers, if you are watching us, we are live on the air all the way to your tablet, to your home. You see the phone line is already ringing. I will be interrupting the conversation as we go, particularly if we have a caller coming in like we do now. But before we really dig in deep, it is always good to appreciate one of our own. And since we all live in the diaspora, Atlanta, matter of fact, just right here in Fulton County, we had an incident. News had it that 2 police officers on duty got involved in a gasoline motor accident, and they were injured to a point of death. So we just want to observe a minute silent for their life, because these are dad and brothers and sons and children and uncles and nephews, relatives of one family or the other. They are no longer alive. It's not like they're even in the hospital. Report says they are no longer alive. And that's Officer Anthony White, Deputy Sheriff, and Deputy Sheriff Kenny Ingram. So may their soul rest in peace. At the same time, we also want to extend the same heartfelt feeling to anyone that have lost their life, either within the hands of the police or within the hands of the law. We just want to say one life that is lost is a million lives that is lost. May all their soul rest in peace. We are ready to start taking calls as they come in. Viewers, if you are there, if you have called before and we didn't take your call, we apologize. We are doing a preliminary opening. Now the lines are open officially for calls to come in. Hit us 770-212-9519. We are waiting on you. In the absence of that, I have Monsieur Adekule on the voice with no video. If you would you like to greet our audience while we wait for the next call? Is she there? No? Okay. All right. Panelists, you have had it all. Let's take the first question from any of the panel member while we wait for callers on the phone.
I think at this time, Mr. Moderator, I would like mostly the judge.
Good morning, everybody. I am so looking forward to this, and I just want to say thank you to each and every one of the panels. I can't wait to hear your deliberation over this issue that everybody has. Thank you again, and I just cannot wait. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, if we can, as we're waiting for callers, if they can give us their view about what they think about the situation, what the advice from the law enforcement and from the judge side, what is your general advice to the public with regards to the issue of policing and community?
Well, yeah, that's okay. They could do it now, but it's more of a closing. But, you know, but if they have anything that is more detailed, yeah, anybody can. Yeah. But still,
we don't know how much time we have. So.
This is Alice. What about the talking points that we had?
We do have, yeah, talking point. We can raise our questions from the talking point. Everybody,
yeah, I think that's better.
Yeah, everybody has a copy of it. The talking point is everything about our safety. Now, let me just ask my own question, you know, to add to it. Honorable Tunde Akinyele.
Yes.
I'm glad you said you had the best of both worlds. Now, meaning that they bring people, they arrest. Once the police arrest before you, sometimes, like you said, you defend the police or you persecute the police. Now, just give us like 5 points for one to look on to avoid you in your chamber pronouncing, let's take me for instance, if I was to be arrested and I'm standing before you, what are the things that you're going to be looking for to pronounce me guilty? And what are the things you're going to be looking for to pronounce me not guilty?
Well, Kingsley, that's a very, I guess a wide topic. You know, the thing is, the prosecution brings the case once the police officer charges, and the state is required to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt. That is the standard that we use. Okay. Now, if a judge listens, it's a bench trial. The judge listens to the prosecution first. The defendant does not have the duty to even speak. You know, you can remain silent. You have a right to do that. The first question for the judge is that the state present their case. If they present enough evidence to warrant a conviction. And if I think they did not, my duty as a judge is to find the person not guilty. But you know, obviously in criminal law, there are always other things in play, such as a person's history. If you have a serious case, in a lot of situations, the prosecutor may file what's called similar transactions against you. So a history of the person's character comes into play, even though technically we're not supposed to use a person's character in law. But by virtue of the prior offenses, you have situations where the character may inadvertently come into play, with the hopes that it does not impact the judge's decision on your case. But let's be frank with it. A judge will look at someone who has multiple burglaries in a different light than somebody who has a first offense for the same type of charge. With respect to, I guess, does that answer that question? I know you said.
You're on it. Okay. You're on it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, can I have a question?
Yes, go ahead, Tony.
This is to the law enforcement officers here among us. What is it that you expect from us as general public when you stop us? What kind of behavior do you expect us to put on? And what are the things that you don't expect us to do whenever you stop any one of us on the road? And what are the things you expect us to do?
That's a good one, Tony. Does any of the officers feel free to just, jump right on it?
Okay, well, I've worked on the road, and one of the things that officers tend to do when they're actually on the road is they're looking for, most importantly, safety. They want to be safe in doing their jobs, and a great deal of being safety, because when we're making a traffic stop and we're having to go ahead and to actually meet that driver or make contact with that driver, we don't know who it is that we're coming in contact with. It could be the 60-year-old grandmother. It could be the 17 or 18-year-old child, this driving teenager, or it could be that one particular person who's got a warrant and says, I'm not going to jail that day. So it's so important for us that when we go up there, our safety that we need to definitely take safety precautions. So a lot of times when we'll come up to the car, we want to make sure that we're kind of looking for certain things. And that could be, one would be definitely hands. We want to be able to see, the person that we're making contact with. We want to be able to see their hands because it's the hands that can hurt us. It's what we don't see is that can actually hurt us. So a lot of times when we come up, the first thing we're kind of looking for is to see, who the person is and make sure I can see their hands. Because again, we don't know who that person is that we're coming in contact with. So we want to kind of keep our hands. So I would say that if we come up to a driver's there, first thing we want to do is kind of see see your hands. I would, and me as an officer, in years now, even now, if I happen to get stopped for whatever it is, first thing I'm doing, I'll have my hands on the steering wheel up top so they can see my hands are empty, or they can see that I have nothing in my hands. So I mean, I would definitely say that as a driver, we want to make sure that when you do encounter an officer or being stopped, that your hands are visible, that you don't have everything, a lot of stuff in your hands, that your hands are actually visible so that we can see that there is no threat. Because again, the hands is what's going on. If we can't see your hands, that's what kind of that can hurt us as an officer. And that's just one thing that we actually want to do.
Okay, excellent. Now, talking about hands being visible, a lot of times when police pull you over, our driver's license for the guys is always in the pocket. For the ladies, it's in their handbag. Right. Now, if a police stop me, I will always, let me keep using myself as an example. If police stop me, I stopped, they're right behind me, and he shows up by the side of the driver. Always the question, do you know why I stop you? They want to know who I am, like you said. They ask for my driver's license. What do? Do I just go ahead and reach out to it, or do I have to say, officer, my license is behind my in my pocket? Can I reach out to it, or what do you do?
Yeah, well, most officers would tend to want you to be able to tell me what it is that you're going for. I mean, again, the hands is what, not knowing what's inside your hands can hurt. So if your wallet is in your pocket, or it's in the dashboard, or it's in between the seats or something like that, it's always good to let the officer know this is what I'm trying to retrieve. I'm going to get my license. My license is inside the glove box, and allow the officer to know what it is that you're actually going for. Again, officers do not know. When we make that stop, we don't know who's actually we're dealing with. A lot of times we don't know who it is until we make contact with that person. So it's always would be a good idea for the driver to let the officer know, sir, my wallet's in my pocket, it's in my rear pocket. Do you mind if I go ahead and get it? And a lot of times, especially if we're asking for identification or something like that, it's best to go ahead and let the officer know that, hey, this is what I'm trying to retrieve.
Excellent. Well, let's give you.
Can I do a follow-up question here?
Yes, go ahead.
What is it exactly will a driver do that would trigger a police officer to be, I don't want to use the word or to use extra force, what is it that the driver will do that will warrant a police officer to use extra force?
Okay. Say it again now. What would it be? An officer?
Yeah, he said.
What exactly would a driver do that will warrant a police officer to apply excessive force?
Excessive force?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're asking for excessive force?
Yeah, what is it that the driver?
Can I chime in? I think what it means is what makes things escalate? What are some of the things that make things escalate that causes a struggle or something of that nature from a regular traffic stop?
That's correct. Does any of the officers want to, chime in on that? To what extent, if I can rephrase that, it means to what extent will a driver refuse arrest, so to say, that will lead to a police officer now going to option B, option C, and any other option that may include the use of force?
I guess if you had to answer, it would be more along the line of the resistance. If you are given a prompt or given, some type of direction and that particular person fails to comply, now that next level may have to be activated.
Compliance. So the issue there is compliance to instruction, if I can get that right.
And then if I may, sometimes you also depend on the threat level the officer's sense when you approach that particular individual. If you approach an individual on a regular routine traffic stop and you roll the window down, the roll window down, of course, and you see all this smoke coming out, they're smoking something in the car. Now you know that perhaps this person might not be in their right frame of mind to make certain decisions. They're probably high, depending on what you're smelling coming out from the car. So when, like he said, like Noble said, when a routine traffic stop is done, we don't know who is sitting there. If it's just one person on the driver's side, it could be less threat because now you only have one person to deal with. If it's multiple passengers in the car, especially the front car and the front seats and the rear seats, now you have one officer having his or her eyes on those three people. So it depends on the level of threat the officer, experience or the level of threat the passengers poses to the officer that will escalate to the next level. Of course, we're trained to use all necessary caution before going to the next level, but we never know what the threat level is. And it's an impulse decision sometimes. So it depends on the level of threat. I think that's what really will make the difference for the force we use.
Excellent. Viewers, you've been listening and you're hearing the officers talking live. This is not recorded, this is live. Now, the phone is waiting on you to call. We're talking about character. One of the speakers, I don't want to keep mentioning name, we spoke about character, that your character goes a long way. If your case ever gets to the court, your history, criminal history, background history goes a long way to kind of like help the judge to decide on, okay, you're likely to go free or you're likely not to go free. Now we talked about safety, so we talked about compliance and we talked about showing of hands. There you go, our first caller coming in. Omega Studio KC, can I help you?
Yes, this is Michael. I'm calling to ask a question.
Yes, Michael. Where are you calling from? Just to have it on, information here.
I'm calling from Henry County.
Henry County. Michael, go ahead with your question. The panel is listening.
Okay, the question is, why don't police officers shoot to wound or use taser in situations?
Wow, that's a very good question, and it's so simple. But let me see if it's very simple to answer. The police officers, Michael is asking, why don't we use taser instead of using the bullet?
Well, in some cases, it depends on what the threat level is. We have what we call a use of force continuum. And we try to use this use of force continuum, which starts out at a low level and it can go all the way up to deadly force. Depending on what the threat is, depends on what type of force we're going to actually use. Naturally, if someone has a gun, I'm not going to take out my taser and try to tase them. So it really depends on the type of force that we're having to apply at the time. Depends on what type of situation it is that we're having to deal with at that time. So, and a lot of times it's split second. It's a split second type thing that we have to deal with. As officers, we have to react to an action. And a lot of times it's not just something that just you have a whole lot of time to think about. But at the same time, the whole goal is to try to get voluntary compliance. We want voluntary compliance. We want you to comply voluntarily without us having to do any type of escalating at all. If that answers the question.
Michael, I hope that answered your question as far as using the gun instead of a taser. Like he said, if a police officer is facing a challenge of somebody going to be arrested has gun, then taser will not be an option. Does any of the panel member want to add more to that?
No, I have a follow-up question.
Okay, follow-up question. Michael, go ahead.
The question is, when someone flees away from the police, so why shoot? You have his car, you have his driver's license. Why shoot to kill? Why don't you just shoot to wound?
Excellent. Well, I'll let the officers attend to that. I'm glad that we'll have all the officers here. It looks like Riley wants to chime in on that. Riley?
Yeah, so when you say, why do you shoot to kill? It depends on, like he said, on the situation of, and the reason we're using a reasonable necessary force with that situation. Now, if an individual have a gun and I wound him, he is still able to shoot. Your body is still able to move. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, but it has been seen and proven that when you wound a person is still able to shoot or stab you and still continues to fight with a wound cavity. It depends on where's the bullet hit, the trajectory of the bullet or anything. So taking that in consideration, I can't tell you exactly what situation you might be talking about exactly, but with that being said, you have to use the reasonable necessary force to stop the threat, if it is a threat.
So can I have a follow-up to that question, please?
Yes, go ahead, Dengule.
So to continue on that thought, in the case of Richard Brooks, that was shot at Wendy here in Georgia.
Yes.
He was walking away from his car. He had no weapons on him. It was clear he posed no threat whatsoever. From the video that was shown, he was walking away, he had no weapons, and he was still shot in the back. So in that instance, was it just adrenaline that took over the police officer, or is it just a spur of the moment? Because again, as a layperson, if somebody's walking away from me, and that person clearly poses no threat to me, again, as a layperson, which I am in regards to this topic, I would not pump several bullets into their back. So my question is, at what point does the officer say, something, let me de-escalate this situation, let me not make it worse than it is. This person poses no threat, he has no weapons on him, maybe I just have to find out where he is, I can get him some other time or make an arrest some other time.
Yes, Dekunle, that is very correct. The citation that you gave there, Richard Brooks, I would like Honorable Akinyele to respond a little bit to that, because apparently, like I said, these are the cases that you see every day. So bullet given to somebody running away, how do we decide on that case as far as either defending the police or defending the dead?
Yeah, and obviously that's a very controversial case. but it's something that I grappled with when I first saw the video, heard the facts of the case, and I came to a different conclusion from my initial conclusion. Okay, it's easy enough for lay people to look at this case and suggest that Mr. Brooks did not pose any threat. However, okay, let me give you some perspectives. The first thing I heard in the news was, okay, it's only a DUI. It was sleeping in the car, just have him go home, leave the car there. Officers are not trained to do that, okay? There's nothing that prevents Mr. Brooks from coming back to the car unless they take his keys or whatever, and okay, it's a discretionary thing. However, when you have a DUI, regardless of whether you are parked sleeping in a private parking lot, your officer is required to do what that officer did. That's the first thing. There's no two ways around it. Most people, they're not just gonna be taken to their let go. Oh, you can go home, because remember that at some point, when he drove to that parking lot, he potentially was intoxicated, and he potentially could have killed somebody. That's the whole premise of doing DUI interdiction or DUI arrest, okay? So the next thing is, once they did the field sobriety evaluations, which they did partially, and they tried to place Mr. Brooks under arrest, he struggled with the officers, okay? He fought with the officers. I believe he punched. One of the officers injured his head. That is a felony obstruction at that point. He has committed a felony. Okay, that's no longer a DUI stop right there. It's escalated, and Mr. Brooks was the one, in my opinion, that escalated it to that level. Okay, so the third question I know you heard was okay. He did not have a weapon. Okay, however, remember that he took one of the officer's tasers. He took the officer that was the same one that was on the floor. And the last question that was posed is, which was what led to the indictment, is a taser considered a deadly weapon? Okay. Any weapon can become a deadly weapon at some point. That's the issue there. And that's what the law has to grapple with. This case, there is case law on this, Tennessee versus Garner, 1985. It came out that states that an officer cannot shoot a fleeing suspect in the back unless the person poses an imminent threat to the officers or to other folks, to bystanders, okay? When Mr. Brooks turned around potentially without taser, and one of the questions that was posed was, oh, he had already used the first prong or the two prongs, the taser can only shoot two. It goes back to what Sergeant Nobles stated, that nobody at that time is thinking whether he shot one or two prongs. Okay, that's at that split second moment, the officer has to decide: is my life in danger when this guy turns around and points that taser at me? And I'll be frank with you, yeah, it might be adrenaline flowing at that time. Potentially, that officer, when he sees that thing pointed at him, he's not even thinking it's a taser. He might be thinking in his head it's a gun. Okay, I'm just telling you based on what I've seen over the years. So the moral of what I'm saying is this, without giving my personal opinion, Mr. Brooks escalated, okay? Would a reasonable officer have shot him? That is the legal standard. Would another officer have shot him based on what he did on turning around with a taser? That's really what we are dealing with in this situation. Okay, and I will submit to you that it is not an open and shut case. Some reasonable officers would have shot him. Some reasonable officers will not. Okay, so it's and I know Lieutenant Copeland, you want to join in? I think I don't know if you want to have something to share. Okay, but that's the way I see this case. It's not a very simple case. Do I think the indictment was rushed? Yes, I do. I'm just going to be frank with you. Again, I have no beef in this fight. I know some of the players, but based on my experience, that is my opinion on that case. Now I can contrast it with some of the other cases that you've seen in public that I would say are clear-cut homicide cases, clear-cut manslaughter cases, or clear-cut murder cases. Judge Floyd was a clear-cut murder case. Okay, there's no other way to mince around the words. That was a intentional homicide of another human being. period. Okay, but I hope that answers your question.
Yes, I think Michael must be very satisfied with that. We spend a whole lot of time making sure that we're satisfied. Michael, are you still there? Okay, Michael, I know he's
I have a question.
Yeah, one moment. Yeah, hold on 1 second. Because George pointed out a few things when he was speaking that we really need to piggyback on. He made mention of different conclusion from his initial conclusion. George, when you say that, I'm like, okay, so how do we explain that? When something happens, you get shocked, you get a conclusion. Then you research on it, you get, okay, I will override with the caller. Omega Studio, Casey, can I help you? Hello.
I'm listening to questions and answers.
Yes, you are live on the air. May I know who is speaking?
This is Sam Fagbo.
Sam Fagbo. Okay, do you have any question? Because you called to ask a question, I believe.
Not immediately.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right. Call back when you're able to ask any question, because this is a lifeline. When you're on this line, you are live on the air. Do you have a tablet with you or a phone?
Yeah, I have my phone.
Okay, go on YouTube, go Omega Studio, 3 words, Omega Studio ATL. You'll be able to hear the conversation. Then if you feel there's a question you need to call, then call back on this number.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Famo.
Yeah, so, can I have a question?
Okay, go ahead.
This question is to the judge.
We're not seeing your video, Tony. What happened? Are you eating?
I don't know what. I don't know what happened. Okay.
There you go.
My question is this. Sometimes I'm not sure how correct this may be. They say when you are stopped by a police officer that you need to know why before you hand over your driver's license, and when you are given a ticket, you may not, or you may refuse to sign that ticket. How true is this? At what point do you give your driver's license to a police officer? At what point do you refuse to do that? And at what do you have any right not to sign the ticket?
Right. Okay. There's something called I guess an attempt at uniform police nationwide, and it's not perfect. Okay. Remember that there are probably, I think from what last time I heard, maybe 13,000 police agencies in the country. There are tons and tons of them. Now, so things are not done perfectly. When Sergeant Noble spoke, he mentioned that when he makes a traffic stop, his first concern is his safety, okay? And the person that stopped, their first concern is, why did you stop me? That is the push and pull right there, okay? Yes, you have a right to ask the officer, why did you pull me over, okay? However, most officers, they want to know who you are first. That's the problem. Okay, so there has to be some kind of standard, in my opinion, that's put nationwide as to which one comes first, because there's nothing in law that says which comes first. That's the issue there. Okay, so yes, it is true that you have the right to ask, why are you pulling me over? What have I done? And if you have not done anything, the law allows you to refuse to give your driver's license. However, it goes back to that reasonable officer standard. He says he has seen you done something. He wants to see your name first so he can run your information to know that you are not somebody that he feels is a threat to him or like, and so you go back and forth with an officer that's going to now, decide that you are escalating. You think he's escalating, okay? My premise and what I tell folks is comply, let the court deal with it later, let your lawyer deal with it later. Because if you run against an officer that doesn't understand how to de-escalate, you are putting yourself in jeopardy. It's as simple as that, okay? Let's know. So you trying to say, I'm not going to sign this? Yes, let me give you another example. In Georgia, I think a lot of people don't know, not every state has this. A traffic citation is a criminal offense, okay? You can be arrested for any traffic citation in the state of Georgia. You can be arrested for jaywalking, red light, stop sign, everything. if you look at the bottom of your citation, it says that you have been released on this citation in lieu of arrest. Okay, it is an arrest document. So if you refuse to sign and you come across a escalating officer, he's going to arrest you even though you were charged with stop sign violation. Now, does that make any sense to put yourself in that situation? Sign the doggone thing and let your lawyer deal with it, or you go fight it in court. That's just the bottom line. Okay, so those little premises, again, at the end of the day, when you have somebody that's, again, has the authority of uniform, authority of weapon, and you are just trying to prove a point that I did not do anything wrong. I need to know why you stopped me before I give you my name. And it makes no sense. Okay, so that's why I tell folks, let it go, comply, move on. Let's deal with it.
In addition to that as well, if I'm piggyback on what he said.
Yes, go ahead.
When an officer pulls you over, he or she have a probable cause for pulling you over. There's certainly a reason for that officer pulling you over. He or she did not pull you over because I just want to pull you over. No. It could be your traffic light, the lights in your car. It could be that you run a stop sign without even knowing. It could be that you're speeding and you don't even know that you've passed. If you look at some zone, the speed limit might be 35, and before you go a little bit further, it dropped down to 25, and you think you're cruising at 35. It could be anything. To me, if I have nothing to hide and an officer pulls me over, I have no reason not to give them my license. Again, I don't know who you are. I run the car like the car, most people don't drive the car that is registered to them. I could be driving a car that my daughter owns or my son owns or my friend owns, something. And I don't know where that car has been run before. And I pull you over, all I need to do is just to know who I'm dealing with. When the tag is, before we approach you, obviously the tag has been run. If that's a stolen car, the officer threat level goes high. So I'm not going to approach somebody in a stolen car. If that car has been called and stolen, I'm not going to approach you just like, oh, hey, how you doing? No, I'm not going to do that. Already, I know this car is stolen. So now the threat level have gone up. So why not give your license? Is it really worth it? Why not give the license up? Remember, license is a privilege and not a right. License is a privilege and it can be revoked. So if an officer asks you for the license, just tender the license to them. All they're going to do with it is to make sure that you have the permit to drive, you're able to drive, you don't have a DUI, or you don't have something on it before they even start going any further. So if you really don't have nothing to hide, why not give your license up? It doesn't really worth all that issue that you're going to go through just for the sake of license that can be revoked in one way or the other.
Well, thank you, Sergeant Diokpara. Viewers, you are listening. The phone line remain open, 770-212-9519. When the judge was speaking, he made mention of you got to be alive to even talk about your rights. Same thing Diokpara is telling us. If you ever get stopped by the police, yet, like the judge said, there is a little bit of a gap there. The law doesn't specify who goes first. If it is, do you know why I stop you? To let me see your license. But hey, you have to be alive. It's not just my right, it's my right. Yes, it's your right, but are you alive? And that's why judge is there at the court waiting for you to walk your feet to the court for defense than your corpse being brought to him like, okay, autopsy. So, George, thank you so much for that piece of information. And Diokpara, thank you for educating us again on what it takes to be alive. Does anybody want to piggyback on any of those while we wait for callers? If not, I do have my own question to ask as well.
Yeah,
I think Nobles wanted to say something. Is that? I don't know.
Yeah, the bottom line again is most of the officers that are actually out there that make stops like that, we want voluntary compliance. It's a job that we have to do, and sometimes the job is it's not a job that, you know, that everybody wants to do, but it's a job that we have to do. So when we're asking for driver's license, again, the whole idea is just so we can identify you, because we don't know who we're actually dealing with. If you have nothing to hide at all, there's nothing to say, here's my license. A lot of times I've made plenty of stops where folks, before I even get to the actual door, they're ready to go ahead and say, well, what did you stop me for? What did you stop me for? You know, and the first thing I'm looking at is the attitude as the person I'm dealing with right now. You know, there's this thing called officer discretion. So a minor citation could simply be a violation. Stop sign violation, red light violation, could simply be a ticket, or even can be a warning. Officer discretion, we can give you that, a warning, a simple verbal warning for letting you know this is what you did if you didn't know. But a lot of times officers will look at the demeanor of the person and how they come across. That can determine whether you get a citation or whether you're going to go ahead and get, you know, or you get a warning. So I would encourage those that are on the side of the road that are driving, you know, take that in consideration as well.
Can I also chime in also, and let me chime in with the negative side that I see in these matters.
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
You have you know, this, you know, there's some laws in this country called pretextual stops. Okay, the law allows an officer to pretextually stop you as long as you have violated the law. Okay, so they are trying to stop you for something else, but they wait for you to run the red light. The law allows that. Okay, it's you know, you might say, well, is that right? But that's the state of Supreme Court case law. The reason I bring that up is this: in some communities, obviously, there is profiling going on, and it has been going on for generations. Okay. Now, those folks are more apt, because of their subjective experiences, to question, to challenge a police officer. Why are you stopping me? I've been stopped 6 times this month, and it does happen. Okay, and eventually that gets old, and I understand the dynamics of folks in that community, those communities, having to feel the need that they'll feel that they are being targeted, which in many situations they are. Okay, New York did it for so long. I mean, there are communities here in Georgia that have probably done it. Okay, so again, it goes back to the overall picture, as in trying, and I think that is part of the experience. That's part of the conversation that we're having nationwide in this situation. Is okay, at what point is it just normal, or is it uniform as opposed to targeted stops of certain people? Because targeted stops still go on. Okay, I'm not going to mince words with my police officer friends. I know folks do it in certain communities. I know if you're a white man driving down Memorial Drive at 3 a.m. on a certain day, they're gonna stop you. They're gonna think you are trying to buy drugs, and vice versa. Okay, I'm just going to tell you that. Okay, is it right? Are they no? But are they allowed to do that? Yes. You know, so they can look for any reason to stop you. Again, but my caveat is just comply to prevent that, you know, the escalation of situations.
Yes. Hold on, George. We'll get right back to it. I have a caller on the line. May I know who is speaking, your name and where you're calling from, please?
My name's Issa, and I'm calling from Snellville, Georgia.
Ife, calling from Snellville. Go ahead with your question, Ife.
Well, one thing I wanted to make sure you guys knew that we have questions on the side, YouTube questions, but I'm here in the YouTube chat. So my question is about the officers. How difficult is your job?
Yeah, can you lower the phone or TV that's next to you? It's kind of backfeeding. Go ahead with your question.
I want to thank the officers first for all that they do, but my biggest thing is, how difficult has your job become due to an increase in hostility towards law enforcement from citizens in the community?
Okay, did we get that? All right, Lieutenant Copeland, how difficult has your job become due to increasing police, what did you say? Insecurity?
Hostility towards police.
Okay, great. See, you had it better than me. Please.
I guess I could actually say that, you know, the job does become difficult. from the aspect of being a parent and having children and having a family. I think sometimes the community failed to realize that we're human too. And, we still have people and, loved ones that we want to go home to. And so now it's one of those things that, you've taken this job with sometimes limited resources, limited pay, and, you're just trying to do the best that you can and make the best decision that you can make. And you're sometimes scrutinized on stuff that, didn't happen in this area or didn't have, directly affect you. So it just makes it challenging, and you are trying to, I guess, change the image amongst the community and how they view officers, for that matter.
Excellent. I'm trying to turn my tablet on, excuse me, viewers, so she pointed out the chat, so I can see some of the chat questions. So like I was saying before, I hope if your question got answered. If not, feel free to call us back for us to throw more light on it. Now, when officer, yes, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
A real quick question.
Sure, go ahead.
I know I've heard so many things out there. Do police officers have quotas?
Say that one more time.
Do you have quotas with reference to tickets?
Do you have to print tickets a month? Do you have quotas or you have to meet?
No.
No. That is completely false.
That's a myth. That's a myth.
It's false.
Yeah.
We don't have anything like that.
Yeah.
And as a follow-up to that question, are you rewarded for stop making so much DUI arrest?
No. Another myth.
What was the question to that?
Are you rewarded for making DUI arrest?
That's a myth.
Are you talking about the number of DUI arrests the person makes?
Regardless of the number, whenever you make a DUI arrest, are you rewarded for that?
No.
Do you have any
reward? No, there's no reward. But I think as an officer, the rewarding thing to you is that you got somebody out of the street that could easily kill someone else as a result of the investigation. That's the only rewarding part to it, that you got someone behind bar as a result of that, because you're not supposed to drink and drive.
Let me can I chime in, folks, based on
yes, Honorable. Yeah,
right.
Blessed to have you. Go ahead.
From my experience, there is no particular quota in any department I've ever worked with. There's none. Okay. However, just like in any other job, you have to perform. Okay. Any officer that sits around all month without performance, without showing something, is not going to have the opportunity of promotions, opportunity of commendations as the officer that busts his behind and issues more tickets or makes more arrests. It's just that simple. Okay. But is there a quota that's written down? No. But do officers that work harder get more recognition? Absolutely, which is just like any other job. Now, with respect to what Tony just mentioned about DUI arrests, okay, there are some officers who want to be a DUI task force officer, okay? It's they want to do it, okay? And I've trained with some of these folks. I know what, so those folks focus hard on making DUI arrests. They will look for every DUI potential driver all night long, waiting and sitting, okay? Because they want to be what's called a NHTSA certified officer, which is a National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, or a RIDE officer, which is advanced recognition of interdiction of drugs, okay? So that is the reason why they are doing that. It's not like the department is saying, oh yeah, here's what you get for making, no. Those officers want to be recognized experts in DUI. So yes, those officers will go after you for DUI. They will look for every person that they think is drunk all night long. That's what they do. And they will tabulate their numbers so they can become experts. Okay, so that's the answer to that.
At what point does it become against the law? At what point does that?
It's not illegal. If you're drunk, you're drunk. It just means that they get better at looking for drunk people. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm just telling you, it's nothing illegal. Again, what I'm saying is this: if there's no probable cause to arrest you, an officer has no basis to arrest you. Now, as a defense, let me put on my defense hat. If I see some of the DUI cases, the videos, and I say this officer found probable cause, yeah, right. Are you kidding me? You know, so that's where we differ. They have what I would call a greater sensitivity to probable cause for a DUI arrest than I do, because I've seen it, okay? And I've taken a lot of the same classes they've taken. I've taken I've taken our right classes as well. So I know, you know, like, so every officer has a different level, because I've actually had a situation where I had DUI task force officers back in the day, you know, because I did a lot of DUI prosecution back in the day. And we would watch the video together, and I would see one officer look at the other one and say, "Are you kidding me? That girl looks fine to me. Why you arrest her?" Okay, that's the reasonableness standard. Subjectively, one officer believes that this person is intoxicated. You might suggest that maybe because it's of his predisposition to DUI cases why he made the arrest. But that same task force officer, the second one's like, heck no, I would not have arrested that woman. Okay, so again, it's subjective in that perspective, and that's why you have lawyers challenging DUI cases all day long. Okay, that's the other side of it. Is it illegal? No, if they have the probable cause. You know, I tell folks most DUI reports look the same to me. Okay, you know, they look for your bloodshot eyes. You know, the odor of alcohol, your swaying, your speech, and you know, they look for the HGN. You know, I say they're all 90% the same. Subjectivity is the question. You know, in my opinion, at all, because we are supposed to look at it from an objective perspective. But is the officer well trained in doing the HGN test? Is the officer well trained in doing the one leg stand? Is the officer well trained in the walk return? Did he explain the process to the suspect in detail before he made the arrest? That's what I look for in these cases.
Excellent. Wow. Viewers and everyone that's listening, we are fishing out for information that will help us to mitigate against future occurrence. So the education, all the information Honorable Akinyele is giving us here today, I mean, it's priceless. I'm getting fed a lot, and I'm like, wow, thank you so much. Now, while we're waiting for the next caller.
With regards to speeding.
Yeah, okay, 1 second. The other question that I had, I was going to nail it, is when Diokpara spoke, she made mention of speed limit and signage. She said if it was like 45 and you're cruising, all of a sudden the speed drops to 25 and you're still thinking, oh, I'm on 45. One thing I've noticed, the police officers will always like to stay down the hill. They won't stay up on the hill. So like, is that intentional? They're looking to get the speed at when you're just coming down the hill. Couldn't there be any other way for them to stay up on the hill? So that question is for you.
You know, now it just depends on, again, the word safety. Where is safe for this officer to stay because of upcoming traffic? Where is safe for these officers to stay so that they can have a good angle of the vehicle coming for those who use radars, okay? So where is safe for them to sit and read these radars or, you know, clock the radars to get the speed limit that you're going over? It is your responsibility as a driver to observe when driving. Just like you look for bystanders, you look for speed limit when you approach a zone. Automatically, you should know, like a residential area, the speed limit is different as opposed to school areas, as opposed to highways, the speed limits are different. So it's nobody's responsibilities. And I tell people this, you can talk your way out of ticket all the time. I was having a conversation with a doctor family friend, and he told me he's talked his way out of at least 3 tickets. Again, the way you speak to the officer. You could have been speeding and the officer pull you over and say, ma'am, do you know you're going 35 over, 20 miles over speed limits? Oh, I'm sorry, officer, I didn't know. It's just the way you approach that officer. If you start telling me how you know I'm going over that limit, how do you know? Why you stop me? Then you now give the officer the rights, okay, or just he or she want to go. Let me give you, I was a victim. Before I became a law enforcement officer, I was pregnant. And approaching a zone, I didn't want to put my seatbelt on. I was about 8.5 months pregnant and my stomach was protruding all the way out. And it is so hot in August. I did not feel like putting no seatbelt on, but I was just around the corner from the house. And the officer can see me from where he was parked at. And because my car wasn't tinted, so the officer can see me. I have my 2 kids, the 2 older ones in the car. So when he saw me, I saw the officer parked. I said, no, let me veer to the next neighborhood. In that way, by the time I come back, he's not gonna see me, because I just don't want to put that seatbelt on. Now, when I finally pull out, heading towards it, the officer stopped me. And when he stopped me, the first question he asked me, man, why are you not wearing your seatbelt? I said, officer, I don't feel like wearing my seatbelt because I feel very uncomfortable. Can't you see my stomach is so big? And that day wasn't just the right day for him to talk to me. But I forgot the officer have a job to do. So I said, what, can't you see my stomach? And the officer said, no, you have to put on your seatbelt. I said, no, I wasn't going to put on my seatbelt. He gave me my very first ticket of $15. So now I could have talked my way out of it. I could have been a little bit more polite. I could have been a little bit more polite to the officer, or nicer, but I just tried to use my mouth, and my mouth got me a ticket. So it just depends on how you approach an officer when you have a ticket. Now, officer does not intend, of course, like the judge said, if I'm gonna do a traffic stop, or if I'm gonna do a speed limit stop, I will sit at a place and at an angle where I can actually get a good rating from where you're coming. I don't want to go sit in the corner where you can't see me. I would definitely do that in order for me to see what I'm doing. Yeah. But I don't intentionally sit down the hill, if down the hill, because you might be coming down the hill and you're coming down out of control. Now it's on me. So it just depends on where I can get the good view.
Excellent.
Casey, yes. This is Alice, please. Yes. Can you check? I can see, it seems like we have a lot of questions there. Nobody is really checking that. Is there any way you can go back and check? People are sending in their questions, please.
I'm looking here on my tablet. If you can read any of them that you see, that'll be great, because my tablet...
No, somebody just sent a message, that there are a lot of questions. I don't...
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not on YouTube, so I can't see that.
Can you see it? Can you see it, Kayode?
No, I can't. I'm not on YouTube. Let me get on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Can somebody get on YouTube, please, so I can respond to these people?
Okay. There is no question. Yeah,
there is no question on YouTube. I don't see any. I'm on YouTube and I'm on this one. There's no question. I don't have access to whatever.
I don't see anything here.
I have a question now.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Tony.
Okay, my question is to the judge.
Yes, sir.
With regards to speeding, is there any certain distance the police officer need to measure with the radar before you are issued a ticket, or just point the radar and ticket, or you are supposed to monitor that vehicle for certain time limit before you issue the ticket for speeding?
Okay, well, let me chime in a little. First of all, 99% of officers don't use radars anymore. They use lasers, okay? That's the first thing, okay? A laser is more accurate than the radar, okay? Radar is the reason why people used to challenge speeding tickets back in the day is because the radar uses the same, it's Doppler technology, the same thing as your weather, okay? Essentially, the signals scatter. So potentially the signals can hit any potential object that's within the vicinity, which is why people will say, well, it wasn't my car that was caught on radar, it was somebody else's vehicle. Laser is different. Laser is the same laser that we all use at home. It's a red light that they look through almost like a camera object light that pinpoints a particular object. Okay, you cannot deviate from that object. You push it, you hit it, the bumper of that car, or whatever. That's what it is. So it's much more difficult, in my opinion, to challenge a laser as opposed to radar. Okay, back in the day, folks used to ask, like officers actually were required to show you your radar readings. They're not required to show you laser. Okay, because you didn't even show me, because the laser is so accurate that unless there's a defect in the laser, as in the officer failed to calibrate it before and after use, they usually calibrate it at the beginning of their shift, and then they're supposed to calibrate it afterwards to show that there's nothing malfunctioning about it. So unless you can have an expert show that the officer did something wrong with that equipment itself, it's difficult to beat a laser case. Okay, with respect to where you are positioned, yes, somebody asked a question about being positioned down the hill. Georgia law does not allow an officer to be down the hill, which is greater than 7 degrees of gradient. Okay, 7 degrees is the magic word. Okay, so the question is, how many of us go out there to go measure the gradient of the road where you were stopped at, where the officer? Now you can. I've had situations where people went and took pictures, and that will be up to a judge to determine whether that was 7 degrees or greater than 7 degrees. So, but am I gonna, are you gonna bring a scale to show me that it was 10 degrees? The officer was positioned at a greater angle downhill? It's gonna be a tough one. But again, that's what the law says. And yes, they have to be positioned within 500 feet at the time they hit your vehicle. However, the law doesn't prevent them from, how do I call it? Because I've had several laser. Let me tell you about laser, because laser goes such a long distance that it goes, a lot of the cases I have, they are cut at 1,200 feet, okay, which is like, I think that's about a quarter of a mile or something, maybe in some situations, to go 1,500. So it goes such a long distance that it's difficult to see the officer before the laser actually catches you. That's really what happens in a lot of situations where you brake, but by the time you brake, it's too late because his laser has already caught you probably in some situations a quarter mile away before you even up to the officer. Okay.
Thank you, Honorable. Next question came from Seyi. I'm seeing some of the questions. Seyi ID is 0427. And he says, officers, that's any of the officers, do you think the requirement for hiring or recruiting a police officer should be increased? This is question from Seyi 0427.
And the question again was, how do they, the officers,
he said, do you think the requirement for hiring a police officer as far as training should be increased?
What it is to now?
Every year, officers are required to meet a certain standard or a certain amount of hours, whether it be in firearms, whether it be ethics, regulations. So there are requirements that officers have to. I'm sure every agency is a little different, but they are required a certain amount of training that they have to have every year. I wouldn't be opposed to having more training, especially with a lot of stuff that's going on in the community right now. So if you're asking, should we have more training? That wouldn't be a problem. I wouldn't see why we shouldn't. As officers, we're dealing with a whole lot, a lot of stuff, a lot of people, a lot of officers that are new officers that are coming on. I don't think it would do anything but help them out, especially with dealing with things that we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with a whole different type of generation of people, as I was saying, and getting getting training, getting additional training, dealing with how to deal, especially with de-escalating certain situations, circumstances, people who have mental disabilities and stuff like that. I don't see any problem with that, and I think a lot of agencies are leaning more towards more training for the officers to deal with certain situations.
Okay, the next question, since we're talking about training, it looks similar to it. It says something about when police officer is going to shoot, if they have to shoot. Does the training not include making the police officer shoot by the leg or hand instead of always by the chest? That could cause instant death.
So I guess from an officer perspective, when it's time for us to, as it relates to the initiation and along with our yearly training for use of force, when it comes to the range, we are trained, center mass. And that is pretty much where we receive our points from a scale to, it's the highest that you can receive is a 300. And as far as a passing score in the state of Georgia, it's 240. And so if we're aiming for legs, we won't receive any points from a training perspective.
Oh, really?
And not just that, the shooting at the leg, remember you're dealing with a moving target. Yeah. It is a moving, that person is just not standing. If that person is standing at a place for you to shoot, then you have the time to use other forces rather than that. But when the person is moving, aiming at the leg is just, you could end up hurting someone else instead of your actual target.
Okay, the next question says, one of the speakers talked about tilting your car. What percentage of tilting is permitted by the law, the way the police can't see the inside of your car?
Tintin.
Yes, you know how you
I think 35% is the legal tint limit in Georgia, if I remember correctly. A lot of people have tint levels of 30 and 25%, which it makes the vehicle darker. Now, obviously, the tint violation is not a heavy fine, but I tell you again, it goes back to officer safety, what they're thinking when they stop a heavily tinted car. You know, if your tint is 20% or less, it is heavily tinted. So they look at you as a danger because they don't know what's in there. So what I will tell you, if you have a heavy tint, roll down all your windows when you're pulled over. It's that simple. Just get all your windows down, put your hands on the steering wheel, let him or she give you the tint ticket, and then I mean it's that simple. But 35% is the limit, is the legal limit in Georgia.
I also want to add to a question or a response that was made earlier as far as training.
Yes,
a lot of times when it comes to training, we as officers are just, from the panel trying to figure out what different training is needed for the agency. We don't know that it's a problem until it becomes a problem. And so, now that panel or some of the higher Bs are now placing, mental health to be more of a training class that's required, or officers safety is a training class that's required, or as it relates to excessive force and stuff like that. So until it becomes an issue, now that's when the additional training comes into place.
Yeah, can I piggyback on Copeland just said? My opinion is that mental health evaluation should be an annual requirement for every officer in the United States of America. I think that is the biggest problem that we're dealing with some of these shooting cases, because in some situations, you have folks that have PTSD. I've personally seen folks, they need to be evaluated to see whether or not they need counseling treatment. Because I remember when I was in the DA's office, the things that we go through, I can imagine what they go through on the streets, seeing dead bodies on the streets all day long. I've seen brain those things will have an impact on your mental health. And if you don't treat it, you are dealing with a walking time bomb on the streets. So I think that's something that I would actually hope that it's made national. Now, the only caveat to that is this: we also have HIPAA rules in the country, which means that you cannot just release any officer's mental health history. That's the problem right there. So at what point do we do the push and pull as to making sure that the officers we have are stable in the environment that they are in, or if they need additional mental health treatment versus the need for the public to know. That's another issue that we have to deal with.
Wow.
And to piggyback on what you said, that should be a requirement for an officer mental health status.
Right.
That should be. A lot of our officers are coming from military.
Right.
A lot of them have serious PTSD and you will not even see it. But if they don't put that disclosure to say every year you will be subjected to take this test,
right,
and then the agency can go from there. If they make that a uniform requirement, I think that will eliminate a lot of stuff from the officers. But also bear in mind, some people join law enforcement for different reasons. Law enforcement should not be viewed as a job. It is a career. And until you start looking at it from that standpoint, you will really think it's just all about power, all about ego. And once you start thinking about it in that aspect, you've missed the point, the reason why you are a law enforcement officer. So yes, I agree with you. Ms. Tunde, that we have to have this. It has to be made uniform in all the agencies, that before, just like before you get hired, they tell you you cannot have this, you cannot have that, you can't. Yes, they have to put that as part of the requirement. You sign for that and say, every year I will take a PTSD test to ensure that, you know, my PTSD is under control. And if I still have it, I'm taking medications for it. I don't think that should violate your HIPAA law, because that's the safety of everybody. I'm a consumer myself because I have family members and I'm not on uniform every day. So I want to make sure when an officer pull me over, he or she is in their right frame of mind when they pull me over.
But please keep in mind, I guess as it relates to the initially when you're starting to become an officer, they are doing the mental health checks, and they are doing physical agilities, and they are doing, you know, the different testing, you know, to ensure that you're able to receive the job. But I think, you know, what the panel is pretty much mentioning is it's not something that's going on yearly, just to make sure that that officer is still in tip-top shape.
Okay.
And that's something that is definitely, you know, definitely needed, because we are experiencing high stress level, you know, daily.
So they, like they say, the rich also cry. So police also experience some level of stress in their job.
Yeah, they're human.
Very much.
Wow.
Of course.
Very much. And you know, there was a time when the suicide level on police officers are high as well. So they go through a lot. They see a lot. And sometimes they can take it. And they don't know who to cry on their shoulders. Everybody bring the complaint to officer, but they don't, who do they take their complaints to? They don't know who to cry on their shoulders. So sometimes some of them can take it and they just take their own life. A lot of them, some people do that.
Now the next question, while we wait for more callers, this one is a little bit of you know, racial, so I want everybody to just hold it right there. Let's look at the question. And viewers, when we're attending to this question, don't put any of my officers you know, into, oh, he said he. No, we're all talking about humans and beings living on this earth, and as human beings, the question goes, do you agree with me that more Black children or adults are killed on the street more than the white by the police? Any of the officers can respond to that. I said, do you agree with me that more Black children or more Black people are killed on the streets than the white by the police?
Well, the answer is percentage FBI statistics, no. But as a percentage, yes. As a percentage of population, but as just the regular number, the answer is no. There are actually more whites killed than Blacks. But because Black folks in this country are about 12, 13% of the population, almost 50% are killed by law enforcement. That is the reason why it's a higher percentage. So that will be I guess the simple answer.
Excellent. Excellent. Does anyone have anything different from that? Now the next question says, I guess, Kayode, this might be for you. He said, it would have been nice to have some white police officers online so that we can hear their personal view on bridging the gap in our communication. So Kayode, is that something that you want to attend to?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we actually thought about that, and, you know, in the end, the consensus was that it wouldn't really make any difference in regards to the answers we've gotten today, that officers will respond, you know, the way they've responded today, you know, in all honesty, as far as they see it. So yeah, perhaps maybe next time we can, you know, include white officers, but while we're putting this together, we didn't really feel that it was a requirement to get the best feedback.
Sure.
That's how we felt.
All right, viewers. Yes.
Kingsley, if I may say something here too.
Yes, go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, I don't think it would have made any difference because if anyone is expecting a white person to come here and tell you that we would like to kill a Black person or do this, it's not going to happen if that person what is expecting. These people are speaking here as officers, and I believe here they're representing the other officers who are not here. So based on their experience as officers of the law, that's how they are answering every question that is coming up here. So if you bring any other police officer, whether white, black, red, or yellow, it's going to give you that perspective as a law enforcement officer. So it wouldn't have made any difference.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have taken all the questions on text.
One more question from the audience.
Yes,
how do you feel about defunding the police department? How do you feel about defunding the police department?
I think that was just, I don't think that would really mean to come out the way they said it, because the officers, the police department is barely getting enough for what they do for a living, for the risk they take every day. You put on that uniform not knowing if you're coming back. It is sad, but for somebody to even mention it, I don't think the word what was said is what was exactly meant. If it's for political, hearing it on the news every day, I don't think. Where are you going to start from in the funding? Is it the equipment? Is it the environment or the SWAT cars? Where are you going to start from? We need.
Yeah.
No. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please. Yeah, I'll follow up.
Just to piggyback on what Sarge is saying, I think the word also defunding the police wasn't the word there as much as reforming or retraining or coming up with ways that we can assist agencies to better deal with situations and circumstances on the street. Defunding is sounds as if you're just taking money from the department and we're just taking money away from the department, and most agencies really can't operate without the funds. So creating different programs to be able to get officers to deal with certain de-escalations, to be able to deal with certain type of sensitivity training. Those types of things I think need to be changed. When I came over here to the into community relations unit, it was simply being able to have a positive relationship with law enforcement and the community, to build that. So we're not trying to build something after something has happened. And that's what a lot of agencies have pretty much done. They've never had a community relations unit. They've never had a unit that's there to deal with community affairs. To be able to bridge a gap between the law enforcement and their community. So when you have an incident that pops off or something that takes off where you have an agency, now you're scrambling and trying to get, to form something so you can keep that relationship, between it. But I think I just think that the word defunding was probably the wrong word as opposed to reforming or retraining or challenging the department, so that we have programs that are in place to help officers and the community that they live in or the community that they're serving to work together and be better off with the community.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that also. I think reallocation may be another word of funds within the department. And I know that Nobles introduced himself as a community liaison officer. And that is absolutely needed in all departments nationwide. I know that DeKalb had theirs 20 years ago. They'll run out of funds, they'll stop it, they'll restart it, they'll get funds, they'll run out of funds, they'll start it again, okay? So the question is whether or not we can have dedicated community policing, because it actually worked. And I actually remember also that DeKalb over the years had a mental health unit within their police department, which was amazing, okay? There were 3 officers in DeKalb County back in the day that were psychologists. They were trained, they had their bachelor's degree. They could be, they were trained in how to de-escalate cases, de-escalate situations of people with mental health problems. And I personally was involved in situations where they de-escalated mental health situations. And I remember one kid in particular that they were able to help him, okay? And then I remember when I guess folks that were outside that team, outside that unit, responded a year later to the same kid who was, he had severe schizophrenia. Yeah, they shot and killed him. So I think I actually saw a difference in the approach of two sets of police officers from the same department, because there was a mental health unit. Now, I think they have it again right now, but I know that some years they'll defund it again. Again, it's making sure the funds go to the right places. Some departments over the years, they focus on drug interdiction, because they might get a windfall, they might get some money allocations. Drug units, yeah, okay, you know what I think about that. You can tell from my, again, going back to let's go to the community to stop the drugs in the first place, rather than thinking that you're just going to break down doors and send people down to break down doors. That doesn't work, in my opinion. Okay, so.
Now, in Fort Lee County, we do have what is called CIT, which is Crisis Intervention Team.
Right.
I think that is practiced nationwide, because a 40-hour training course that is required, well, they're trying to make it a requirement for every staff to have it. And in my agency, we don't limit. You don't have to be a lieutenant, you don't have to be a sergeant, you don't have to be a captain. We're trying to offer it to everybody. Again, as a result of shortage of staff in most agencies, as you can see, retention level is nothing to write home about. Taking someone out from a particular unit for 40-hour course, that's a whole week course. Some agencies are suffering from that, but I think that's something that most agencies want to offer their officers. And it's a very good training. I had the privilege to have one. And most of mine was done with the military units, where we had to go to the VA units to see most of the people who are going through this PTSD and other form of mental health illness. So yes, they investing in that. So instead of defunding or taking money from, like George said, put it in places where we can offer the officers more training, more useful training, because almost majority of the people you see on the streets today, either homeless or they have some sort of mental health issue, and you don't know what they have until you deal with them. Now, the officer cannot look at you and say, okay, this person has mental health, or this person is suffering from PTSD. The officer, until they come closer to you, maybe you start talking and your sentence is not adding up, then they figure out something is wrong with this person. And I think most of the things that's a different topic, is to try to figure out a way, because you see them a lot in the jail now. They get arrested for no reason, for just knowing that some of them are mental health. So if we can find a way to channel some of the fund also to a unit where they can be helping these homeless people, try to at least get them back on track with their medication, or people who are suffering from that with their medication, that will eliminate a lot of this interaction. Because when you look at some of the people that have some issues with the police, they do have some form of mental health issues. So.
Next question says from Opala, it says, what is your perspective on having mental health staff with the police when they are responding to 911 calls? Having a mental health staff with the police when they are responding to 911 calls.
They can't afford it. That's just that's the simple answer. Are you kidding me? They're talking about, they're going to have to hire 2 psychologists to follow police officers? No. And not only that, again, if they're the police officers that are actually psychologists or mental health personnel, like I've seen in those situations, yeah, but those will be limited to just crisis calls. You can't have a psychologist or a crisis intervention team go to every 911 call. It's just not possible.
It's not possible.
Yeah. And folks that are talking about defunding, they have no clue. There's no money to do that.
Well, I hope you had a response to your question. Next, we have some talking points, but apparently we have gone through most of them. It's all centered on safety. I will give any of the panel members a chance if you have any question while we're waiting on the phone to ring. If not, let me know. Does they have any quick question that we have not dealt with?
Yeah, I have one last question. Again, this is just to deal with myth or truth. And the question is it true that the kind of cars you drive or the color of the car that you drive, you are more susceptible to being stopped than not. So the kind of car that you drive or the color of the car, does that play into you being stopped or not being stopped? Thank you.
Yes, Sergeant Nobles, looks like you want to take on that. Go ahead.
I've never encountered anything as far as the type of car it is or what type of, and I've worked on, traffic for a while. As far as I'm looking for a specific car, I'm looking for a certain color or anything like that. Not that I'm not radar certified or laser certified, but I do believe that sometimes it's a little bit easier to possibly see a vehicle of a different color. I've worked with some of the guys on the road that do use radar and laser, but I don't think they're targeting any particular color or a particular vehicle, and that, from my experience anyway.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I have a follow-up question on that.
Yes, go ahead, Alaka.
This is practical example.
Okay.
Long time ago in Chamberlain, I was stopped by one police officer 5 times because I have no other reason than it's either because of my car, because I was driving a very older car then. And whenever he stops me, fortunately, he was a nice police officer, and he would say, the last time he stopped me, it was the 4th time, he realized that he was stopping one person, and he apologized. But the thing is I couldn't figure out any other reason why he was stopping me outside the type of car I was driving there, because it was an old, bitted Ford Escort. So I couldn't figure out any other reason more than the type of car, because that was the only reason why I was stopping, because at each of these times, he never issued a ticket.
Okay. All right. Next question. We're going to say thank you, Seyi 0427. He has been with us apart from the onset. His question again is, what measure works best to promote a collaboration relationship between police department and the community that they serve? Collaboration relationship. George, I think that's you right there.
Well, it could be Nobles as well, but I'll take a swing at it first. No, what we are doing today is an example of reaching out, trying to bridge the gap between police and the community. I know that, for example, in the cab, every precinct in the cab has coffee with the cops every month. Okay, they rotate it, so you can actually go to any of the precincts once a month, get it on your calendar, meet with the officers at 8 o'clock. They'll stay there till about 9:30. You can meet with the precinct captain. Give them your concerns. Now, most of the people that show up to these events, because I've been to several, are usually retired senior citizens. And they have they want to talk. For them, that's because obviously they're not working on a daily basis. Now, the general folks, the young folks, most of them tend not to come. However, they still, the county will occasionally put forth some events for young people. We have, what's the national day that we all police officers do? What's it called again, Nobles? National.
Talking about Police Week in May?
No, there's something we all call national blackout day. Not blackout day. It's where all the police officers come to the community, and I know we do it all over town.
We have one too, but I believe.
Yeah, I forget what it's called. There's a name for it. All the police forces, agencies around the nation, one particular day, go out there and meet the community. So things like that do help, and I think it goes both ways. The community also has to reach back out, because if folks don't know what these folks go through on a daily basis, as why they do things, remember that you are the ones paying the officers' salaries. You're the ones that are funding these folks. It's your tax dollars. So you want to make sure that you are being properly served. And then at the end of the day, we can talk about, the tension between police and the community all day long. But if any of us have any problems, guess what we do first? We pick up the phone and call 911. We all need it. Everyone at some point has called 911. I have. I'm sure everyone in this audience has as well. So we just have to make sure that we understand the dynamics, and we also have to make sure that we understand and don't be afraid to, as in when I say don't, as in all of us, to say when you see something wrong, and that includes police officers if they think there's something wrong, and because you need to make sure you weed out the bad folks out of the blue, and to make sure that the respect comes back for the rest of folks. Otherwise, it's just going to go downhill. I mean, it's that simple. Ain't no two ways around it. And if we don't weed out those folks, then things will not change. But that would be my premise. I think Nobles, I don't know if you have something to chime in as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just so important, and I've been doing meetings and forums like this for a while. My biggest thing is that, right now, this generation of people that we're dealing with, when I say that, I'm not talking necessarily with law enforcement, but we're dealing with folks who don't have respect for one another. We don't have respect for one another. We have kids don't respect the parents don't respect, adults. I mean, and it's not necessarily law enforcement. So when you have a generation of people who don't have respect for law or order, it's kind of hard to kind of get things, to work, trying to work together. But I just think you have to go back to being able to have respect for one another. When you're able to do that, things, tend to, when you have respect and you can respect, not necessarily, again, law enforcement, because I think that I want to take that out of perspective. But when you have respect for somebody, when you have respect for someone, your attitude, your behavior, everything changes. It should change anyways, how you treat people. But it's a hard thing to do. It's something that we really need to get back to in the community, is to be able to respect one another. And when you're able to respect respect somebody else, respect your elders, come to respect somebody, you tend to treat somebody differently. You treat them completely different from where you're at right now, where we're at in society right now. But with that being said, that it's going to take a lot from everyone. You see things that need to be done with and reaching out, to our communities. That's what we are all. Law enforcement is. It's a service that we have, and the service that we have, we do have to touch and reach out to the community to make sure that everything we're all on one accord. So.
Okay, and I'm sorry. Yeah, it's called National Night Out Day.
That's it.
All police officers come out all over the country. So whenever you see a sign that says National Night Out, please go out there, go meet your officers. You will meet your community officers, you'll meet the chiefs, everybody comes out to National Night. The chief of police comes out, everybody has the opportunity to speak, meet, they'll have drinks for you, they'll have food for you, they have entertainment. It's a wonderful event for everybody.
Yes, usually in August, I think it's in August, and it's first Tuesday in August is when that's normally.
And it's always outdoor or indoor?
Outdoor.
Outdoor.
Okay.
Excellent. I have a question for the judge.
All right, yes, Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, with regards to the radar or the laser, whichever one, is a police officer supposed to be trained to use any of these equipment? And if I'm given a ticket for speeding with based on that laser or radar, when I walk into your court, can I ask the proof of training if that is required by that police officer?
Yes, you are required to be trained by law because obviously they are specialized equipment. You would not ordinarily be able to use them without knowing how to use them. And yes, they have their certifications for radar or laser, which is on file. Now, if you don't ask for discovery, you will not have access to the paper, actual paper, okay? They may be nice to you in court and give it to you because the law follows certain parameters, which means that you actually have to put something in writing saying that I want this, so. Now, the officer may be nice to you and bring court, and several of them may have it and say, yeah, here's my certificate. But if you did not ask for discovery in time or before court and you ask for it that day, all he's going to do is tell you, I'm trained, I'm certified. Do you have your certificate? No, I don't. You never asked for it. So it's knowing the law. A lawyer will know when to ask for it. You have to do it 10 days before trial and things of that nature. So that's it. Those are the things.
Follow up to that with regards to the radar too. The certificate and every one of them is calibrated a certain period of the year, 1 or 2 years. Is the police officer supposed to show proof that that radar has been calibrated or is up to date by law in the courts?
Yeah, it's the same thing. They have to show calibration. And I'll be frank with you. I have not seen a radar case in probably 7 years. Ain't nobody using radar anymore.
Right.
I mean,
the laser that you're referring to.
The laser is actually calibrated daily. Okay, beginning of shift.
Put it in the charger.
There's a chart every morning. They have to actually write it, test it, put it, and there's a chart of it. There's a record of it. Yes, if you want that record, discovery, yes, you're allowed to get it. Open records, request, you're allowed to get it. That is correct. Now, if the laser malfunctions or anything like that, they have to send it back to the manufacturer. And then you'll have a record of that as well.
Excellent, excellent. Well, viewers, you have had it. It's been a good conversation here. The panelists have done an excellent job. It's not easy to get everyone, and we just have to encourage them and appreciate them in a very heavy manner. They did not get paid. It's not like they're on a sitting allowance to, be doing this. It's out of their own goodwill, out of well-wish and concern, trying to bridge the gap. And that's what we're doing. So we will keep our eyes on the questions if need be for part 2, especially to bring a white police or white police officers. Yes, Kayode has promised if we need to do part 2, that will be something we can look on. Other than that, I will be asking for closing notes from the panelists. And let me start with Kayode Adenkule, is the PRO of ANOG. And once again, we want to say thank you so much, ANOG, for this opportunity. Kayode, please, your closing remarks. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Kingsley, for moderating this event. I think this topic obviously is very, very important to everyone. I think, we're going to post this to, on our site and make this conversation.
Just 1 second. Let's not lose this caller. You never know what they got. Omega Studio, Casey speaking. Can I help you?
Hello?
Yeah, your phone is too close to your phone, your ear, backfeeding. Can you lower the TV a little bit?
I can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I'm at the webinar or the call now.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I'm at the webinar. I'm this
You have 2 devices. One is talking to you, and then you're talking to me from the other one.
I'm sorry. What did you say?
That's like Professor Sebo.
Hear me?
Yes, I could hear you. You're loud and clear on the air. Go ahead. May I know who is speaking?
Oh, this is Professor Sebo. I'm chair of ANOG Advisory Committee.
Okay. Chair of ANOG Advisory Committee. Go ahead, sir.
So I've been listening to the dialogue. You're loud and clear on the air. Go ahead. I know. Okay.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm going to have to pause the phone for a minute.
No, I'm Esebue, Professor Emeritus Esebue.
Esebue, yes. Go ahead, Prof.
Yes, I just wanted to compliment ANOG and the members of the law enforcement community for taking the time out to come to this event. Very refreshing. Okay. Well, okay.
All right, Prof. Thank you so much.
I can speak. I can hear me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof. I got you. You say you're calling to appreciate ANOG for what they're doing in our community, which is so true.
What I would like to know is there they see a merit in getting more of non-members of our community enrolling in the law enforcement business?
Oh, okay. Okay. He's asking a question about getting more people recruited in the police.
Exactly.
Okay. Who will take that recruitment? More. Okay, Kayode or Alaka. How many more of our community residents here in Georgia do we have enrolling in the police? That's something you want to know.
We have one with us here, and I have tried with Plateau County because of the relationship that exists between me and the sheriff. I recommended some Nigerians to them, but one of them was hired and it didn't continue. The other one did not make the requirement. So anybody that is in.
Oh, turn is off. All right. Well, Kayode, sorry about that. I know you were speaking when I interrupted. Sorry about that. I had really wanted to get that caller. But please go ahead and conclude on your closing remarks, Kayode.
Again, I mean, this is obviously, an honor to have the police officers and our honorable judge on the call to talk to our folks about cooperation between us and law enforcement. I think, I want to thank you all for taking your time to be here today. Like somebody said, this is not paid, but you took your time on a Saturday when you can be doing other things to, share your time and your knowledge with us. We definitely appreciate it. Two things that I learned today for sure is that when I'm, in contact with police enforcement, always make my hands visible at all times. And second thing I learned today is that your attitude matters when you're dealing with police. Your attitude matters. If you're kind to them and you're respectful and cautious, that goes a long way. So, attitudes matters a lot. Thank you.
Excellent. And we'll be taking a roll from Tony Alaka. Please give your closing remarks to what has happened here today. We also want to say thank you in a special way. I know you were the immediate past president, so good job, Mr. Alaka. Please, your closing remarks.
What can I say than to thank you and our honorable judge and the law enforcement for what they've been doing. It's not just for taking their time to be here, but for the service they've been rendering to the community. Just like Kayode says, attitude means a lot. I've gotten away. I ran a stoplight with a police officer behind me, and I didn't get a ticket because of attitude. Because of speeding, I didn't get a ticket. So attitude means a lot when you are being pulled over by a police officer. Try not to be aggressive. And it's as important as anything in life. They are human beings. The way you react to them will determine how they will react to you. So if there's something we need to take out of this, whenever you're stopped by a police officer, your attitude, you have to put it on check, because that will determine what happens next. And thank you very much, everybody, for taking your time to be out here this afternoon. And thank you again.
Thank you so much, Mr. Laka. Like you said, attitude is altitude. Definitely, yes. Mr. Riley, give your closing remarks. I know you kind of arrived a little bit late, but we did opening remarks before you arrived and you jumped right into it. So, hey, you are welcome to join the two, opening and closing all at the same time. Go ahead.
I appreciate you. I would say I appreciate being able to be a part of this. I've heard from different agencies and different sergeants, lieutenants, and judge. So I actually enjoyed the experience, and I would like to join the next time if y'all ever have another one, so I can be present to give the knowledge that I do have on certain situations and everything else. So.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And Sergeant Diokpara, I know you made mention of driver's license not being my property. Like I have it in my possession, but it's not really my property because it's a privilege to have. So give us your closing remarks, telling our viewers, referencing what you said, how to take care of their driver's license so that the next time they get a stop, the officer doesn't take it out of their hand.
Well, when we started this, the initial goal was to find a way to marry the community and the policing department, which I think some of the things that we've talked about here today have covered a lot of it. The way you deal with people, your perception, officers are human. Always remember that. And always remember that there is no policing without the community. The community are the ones who make up the police officers. Most officers serve in the same community they live. If they don't, their children, their family members live there. When it comes to your driver's license and the privilege, always remember, it is a privilege, it's not a right. It can be revoked if you don't take care of it. It is your responsibility to care and make sure you follow the rules and regulations, because you will read the signs. Even when you go get your license, they tell you what is required. So it is your responsibility to ensure that you do everything and follow all the steps that is necessary to uphold that license. Because when it's taken away, reinstatement is expensive, number one, and your insurance goes up. So always try to keep up with your license. And when an officer asks you for it, please just feel free to tender it to them. They're not gonna bite you. Look at officers as your fellow citizens. If you start looking at them in that aspect, you will realize, even me as an officer, sometimes when they pull behind me and the light goes off, I'm like, what did I do wrong? That's the first thing that comes to my mind. So it's always important, look at them as human beings. Look at them as your fellow citizens. Don't look at them as officers is here to hurt you. No, we're not. We're here to help. When there's a gunshot out there, officer is heading towards that gunshot, but citizens are running away from the gunshot. So we're here to help. Look at us as one of you and work with us, and we can make this community a better community to live in.
Thank you so very much. I live in Cobb, and there's something that always kind of take my breath away when I see it on the police cruiser. It says honor to serve and duty to protect. I always read it like 10 times. Oh, wow, what a word. So going by what you said, police is your friend, not an enemy. Moving forward, our Presido, Madam Presido Alice Sunday, ANOG President. You made it all happen this afternoon. You brought all this to limelight, and we want to get your closing remarks. Tell us how many Nigerians, what kind of campaign you're going to do, how many Africans you're going to do in the next 1 year to have about 50 more enroll in the police department. Go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Again, thank you so much. I just cannot thank these officers enough and honorable for your presence here today, and also the people that took time to call in, and they've been hanging around for quite a long time. But one thing I would like to say first and foremost is that I know that some of our kids are not online to listen to all this advice that has been given to us by these officers. It is our responsibility as parents to pass all those information to our children. It's very, very important. Our officers here and outside, those that are not here, they are friends, just like what they have just said. And just like what other people have said, the attitude is very, very important. And I would like to just mention what Nobles mentioned. You know, some of the kids are really, really disrespectful. And it is our responsibility as parents to talk to them and enlighten them on the importance of making sure that when they get pulled over, they have to follow the rules. It's very, very important. As parents, it's important. If you don't have kids, you have maybe friends that have kids, you pass this information to them. Now, ANOG, we're gonna try our best, continue to do this. Hopefully, we're gonna get maybe the white people around, I don't know the difference, because they'll still come here and talk just like what our other people here are saying, because they follow the same rules and order. They follow the same training that they receive. So that's all I'm gonna say for now. And thank you so very much, Casey. Thank you so much for a job well done. I'm sorry, you guys know we've been here for a couple of minutes, and thank you so much, everybody, and you have a blessed weekend. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Moving forward, Lieutenant Copeland, you were among the first to arrive. Even before I could show up, you're already there. I want to appreciate you for being on time. Tell us from your experience of being on the road, receiving calls and attending to 911, what are the pitfalls? What are the things that you rather get into and not get into? And greet our final audience with your closing remarks. Go ahead.
If I can sum up my closing remarks, first and foremost, I truly appreciate the opportunity to be amongst the panel. Just the knowledge and the skill sets that we have possessed even on this call today. It is important that we as people, this is the first start. I think, there's so much going on in the community. There's so much going on in the world that we have to open up that door of communication. And adequate communication is important because now you're answering those unknown questions. And so I hope and pray that this doesn't stop. We continue to pass that torch to our young people, like she just mentioned. We continue to pass that torch to other fellow officers, and so that we can also be a light, even if they're having a bad day, or redirecting them if need be. And we just continue to pass that torch to just be educated to what is right and what is wrong, and what the law states and what the law doesn't state. But besides that, everyone be safe. Please be mindful that we are here to serve, we are here to help, and we are here to protect. And in doing that, allow us to do our job, essentially.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Copeland. Moving forward, Sergeant Nobles, there is something specifically you touched almost in every part of your speech. You always say, we are dealing with generation of a people. I could feel it is a burden in your heart. And then you added it with respect. Even Alice piggled back on it. So Nobles, I feel you because I'm a parent, and dealing with the youths of these days, children of these days, where do we get it right and where do we get it wrong as parents? Please give your closing remarks, advise us moving forward how to do things right as parents, and advise the kids listening, like Copeland said. Is their ear not working anymore? Has the internet and cyber world taken over their ear? Please advise us. Go ahead.
First, I want to thank you also for allowing me to participate in this symposium. I enjoyed it, and this is what we do. This is what law enforcement and community relations is all about. I thank you for the opportunity, and I pray that you get a chance to invite me back again, because again, this is what we do. I can't reiterate enough on the fact that it is so important for communication. There's such a lack of communication in amongst law enforcement and the community, whereas there's not a good dialect, and sometimes when there's not a good communication, things start to break down. Communication is the key to everything. It pretty much is, and not just the communication, but how you communicate to make sure that you understand that law enforcement is there to help. We're here. I joined law enforcement because this is my service to my community where I grew up, and I believe that 95% of my officers that are law enforcement officers feel pretty much the same way. It's their service to the community. Respect, it goes a long way. It goes a long, long way, and being able to respect the people that I serve and have the people that I serve respect me in law enforcement as well. It's a hard thing right now because, again, not just law enforcement, but people alone have, find no respect in life, no respect in anything. I would say that, as far as you have to be one that's going to stand up for right. What I mean by that is when you see things, and my kids are grown, all my kids are grown and out of school, but even the kids that I come across on the streets, when I show them respect, they show me respect back. This allows me to have a dialogue with them, be able to communicate with them, so they're not afraid of me. They're not afraid of law enforcement. Not only that, but they're able to treat you differently when you are able to communicate with them. Sometimes we have to come out, and I'm saying this as an adult, we have to come out of ourselves to even respect and treat certain kids. You know, I used to be an SRO in school, and it was something for me to reach out there and touch a child that's out there who may not have come from the same background as us, may not have a mother or father, may not have somebody who cares about them. But it's important for us as adults to be able to show respect to those kids, to show them that they do care, that they do matter. And when you do that, you can change one person at a time, one child at a time. And if that one child can respect somebody else, man, then I feel like my job is worthwhile. I feel like it's worthwhile. But as adults, as parents, as adults, we have to be the ones to be able to show that, you know, a child or another person, that we respect them. And when we're able to do that with our youth, our kids, then our kids can see, you know, can have respect for other people as well. I think that's our main thing right now, is being able to communicate. Last thing before I leave real quick, my thing that I want to go ahead and just leave on the table real quickly is that, you know, if you ever stop law enforcement, know that you cannot fix the issue, or if you're cited or something, you can't fix the problem right there on the side of the road. Meaning that arguing with an officer on the side of the road is not going to it's not going to fix the problem. It's not going to fix the situation. If you got to go to court on it. If you got to make a complaint on it. But the thing is, you want to live. And right now, the way things are, we want to be able to make sure that you live. And by saying that, I want you to be able to realize that you can't always fix the situation on the side of the road. If you're going to get a ticket, you're going to get that ticket, go to court and fight it. If you feel like you've been justly wronged by an officer on the side of the road, go ahead and make a complaint about it. But be respectful about it, and so that you can live.
Thank you so much, Sergeant Nobles. Moving forward, we'll be getting the closing remark from Honorable Judge Tunde Akinyele. We want to say thank you so much. I mean, to have you here with all the information that you have given us. Judge, this is me. If I am arrested, I don't want to go to jail. All right? Even though they say freedom is not free, but for me to make the job easy, for you to tell me, go home, or make the job harder for you to say, guilty as charged. Oh, George, please, what do I got to do to make your job easy for me to go home? Slap a police officer or what? Tell us your closing remark.
Slap.
Did I tell you? Vote. 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 And I know it sounds simple. However, sometimes a lot of what we're dealing with are the laws created by the legislators. And if you don't like some kind of legislation, you got to vote. You have to make your feelings known about it. But, well, I want to thank you first, you know, obviously, ANOG, for holding this event. And happy 60th anniversary to Nigeria.
That's great.
We know that a civilized nation is distinguished from an uncivilized nation by the laws on the books, you know, the laws that we create over generations, the laws that arise out of the norms that we create or out of legislation as we have in this country. Now, things have not been perfect over generations, okay? You know, we know the history of policing in this country has some flaws, okay? There's no two ways around it. We need to change the disparate treatment in issues of race, profiling, the whole, you know, those things that I touched upon. However, you know, for the most part, that is a national topic, something we're all discussing nowadays, which we all need to be involved in, which is why I said vote, because the national perspective, the national aspect, what you desire is what you put into it, you know, so that's the reason why I said that. Now, locally, we still have to reach out to each other. We have to touch each other. We have to make sure that we follow, we all apply the law with equal protection as we have in the Constitution, as we have right now, and make sure it applies to everyone. And that means that we all have to participate. We all have to get involved. And it is true that communication is a big thing. You know, you cannot, as Nobles mentioned, resolve the bigger picture on the side of the road. The bigger picture is resolved by the laws that you vote for or by the court system. That's who resolves those bigger issues. Why did you stop me? You know, again, like I said, if legislation wants to put into place who says what force, let's do it. If we need to improve national standards for policing, to show exactly how police officers are supposed to be trained, let's do it. If we need to implement mental health, evaluations yearly for police officers, as I suggested, let's do it. Those are things that have to be done by legislation. You cannot just do it by, on the side of the road. So again, which is why I implore you all to just go make your thoughts, your feelings known about that. With respect to policing locally, get to know your police officers, participate in these events, as I mentioned. Take your children. Whenever the police department is having an open house, all of them do it. Believe me, there's no police department somewhere that doesn't have some kind of open house. There's no police department that does not have some kind of junior cadets for young children. You can take them to go meet those folks so that they develop a level of comfort with law enforcement. And before I got into prosecution, I had that same reticence towards law enforcement. You know, and interestingly enough, that's one of the reasons why I went into prosecution. So I could see for myself, learn for myself. You know, is this what I learned in criminal procedure? How do we deal with these things? And I learned a lot. And I see both sides of the issue. I know what the police officers are going through, and I thank them for what they go through. And believe me, there are a lot of officers out there are trying to de-escalate issues. I've seen officers that will escalate at the same time. Those officers, I just shake my head and like, oh my God, come on. You don't need to be on the force. But you see the folks that came here today to come discuss with you. Those are the good officers. Those are the officers that on a daily basis, we need to make sure that we support, their endeavors, yes. Support them because they are trying to support us. As they mentioned, as Copeland mentioned, she's part of the community. They also say they want to go home, And I remember one of my, officer friends back in the day, we had a rash of shootings in DeKalb back, a long time ago. Many of you don't remember. There were 12 in 1 year in DeKalb County, okay? Most of the officers that were involved were black officers, okay? So in some situations, it's not about race, it's about perspective. Now, a lot of those cases were presented to the grand jury. There's no grand jury, there's no officer that was indicted in these cases. I talked up on one officer because a lot of those situations were the young men pulling guns, they had guns, and this is not, again, the clear-cut cases, okay? I thought maybe we'll touch upon a few names. Philando Castile comes into mind, okay? I don't know if you all know that case. The officer asked him for his driver's license. He told the officer I had a gun. As he was reaching for his license, officer shot him. Should that officer have been on the force? Absolutely not. Because again, it might go to the mental health issue that I said. He was too trigger happy because he had a predisposition. He had a fear right away. Okay, if you're not comfortable with that, tell him, no, don't reach for your license. Let me get it or something like that. I had the same situation in Georgia, actually, similar situation, where a trooper stopped me years ago and he asked for my license, which was in my console. And I told him I have a gun in there. And guess what? He told me, oh, don't worry about it, step out of the vehicle, because he did not want me to open that console. Perfect. That's how you deal with situations like that. All he wanted to do was show me that my light was broken, which was great, okay? Compare that with what happened in that situation. When, again, going back to the fact that we need to focus, again, talk about bad situations, and don't be afraid to say, okay, people like that did not need to be on the force. Maybe an evaluation would have revealed it. Something happened that broke down, and we need to make sure things like that don't break down. So we all need to focus. Again, don't be afraid when it's not right. And I implore my officer friends, let's do the same thing. So we're all in this together. So thank you all again, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, George. And thank you again to ANOG. Thank you to Omega Studio. We have done it. Viewers, it's kind of amazing. We had a fixed number, so that means the conversation glued them in. So we'll give them that, thumbs up for staying on. I think there's going to be part 2 to this, so Kayode is going to give us heads up when that's going to happen. The ANOG chair lady, Alice Osunde. So thank you, and we have had a good conversation. Great afternoon. Everyone has done great, and I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. Casey, your moderator. I will see you in the next event.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.